the 1st. The hospital room is empty, just a bed, a TV. The door opens, a pale man enters. He doesn't blink. This is the valet. He addresses us.
What? Surprised to see a valet?
Silence.
Oh, no matter. There's no need for you to talk. Not yet.
The valet takes out a bottle of disinfectant. He sprays liberally, wipes less liberally. He opens his mouth. He has a serpent's tongue. It darts out to clean the remote to the television.
It's important to stay connected. You never know what is going to happen next.
The valet turns the television on with his tongue. It's MSNBC, it's Rachel Maddow, lots of dramatic pauses, lots of pandemics. The valet turns the volume down.
Oh, you should have seen it last time. The carnage, the death. But don't let me bore you. I'm sure you've got places to be.
More silence.
Oh, you don't? You don't say? Well, tickle my pickle, you old trickle. That's the most wonderful thing I've heard all day. But I'm afraid I have places to be. You see, the guests will be arriving soon. The guests.
The valet blows us a kiss.
Ooh. Ooh. Oh. Oh. This room is about to be infested with people. See you soon.
Scene the 2nd. A hospital waiting room. Kleenexes and stale coffee abound. It is empty, but only for a moment. A mouse chews on a fallen bit of cheese. We'll call the mouse Edmund.
Oh, a fine bit of cheese, this. But lo, I hear a footfall in the distance. Could it be? The guests are arriving already? Hurriedly, I must get to safer ground. But why are the guests coming now, and in such quick fashion? I hear their steps and feel their anxiety. Something is turning in the air, and it is best I steal away. Tarry with this business no longer will I. A mouse is wise to keep to himself in times of human suffering. Oh, but this cheese is packed with flavor and secrets. A downfall if I dare remain in the open. Hell will be a murky place, lest I can pull myself from this feast of men. The steps quicken. The lady is fresh with anger and conviction. I can hear it through the atmosphere, and the man is none the wiser. Well, fire on me, lest I can move my small mouse feet to the safety of thine inner passageway. Oh, I am a rogue and foolish mouse indeed, if only these blasted paws would hasten their exit. Nearer yet they come. Please, gods, let me abscond out of this hell in which I have found myself. Yummy. Still is this cheese upon my lips. It makes me drunk, as though the finest wine is coursing through my veins. But I will be a feast for Satan if I can there.
As Edmund finishes his soliloquy, the doors to the hospital waiting room explode open, and a very rich woman and a very rich man stampede toward the front desk, squishing Edmund in their path.
Excuse me, someone help. I have the COVID-19. It's eating me alive and I need medical assistance now. The finest, do you hear? I need the finest medical assistance there is. Give me the antidote.
Now, dear, I do believe you're overreacting. If we had stayed indoors, the doctor would have been willing to make a house call.
Shut your fat mouth, Baron. I am not waiting for that fat doctor to come and give me some horrible diagnosis. I'm not convinced the slightest that he doesn't have it himself. A doctor of his age and weight? Please. Why is no one at this desk? This is a pandemic.
Sweetums, the doctors are busy assisting other patients.
Well, I'm gonna need them to be unbusy. I have healthcare, damn it. The finest and most expensive healthcare my super PAC can buy. What is the point of funneling millions of dollars into a GOP senator's re-election campaign if it can't get me a guaranteed doctor's appointment?
I'll make the house call to the board first thing in the morning. Snookadoodle.
You're good for nothing, just like this damn hospital.
A screen appears in front of the desk. All doctors are assisting patients. Please, be patient.
Is this some sort of horrible joke? Who the hell do they think they are? We're rich. We need medical assistance now.
Oh, Sugar Bear, please, let's have a seat and be patient like the good screen told us. I'm sure we'll be helped in no time.
You're as dumb as you look if you really think I'm going to sit on these infected waiting room couches. If I didn't have the virus, I certainly would after that. I married a halfwit. Take my mink.
Charlotte throws her massive mink stole onto Baron and it knocks him to the ground. She paces back and forth. A smile appears on the screen. It gives them a grin. It gives them a frown. It gives them a slight lick of the lips. A tooth falls out. An enzyme appears. Another grin, and the screen goes black. A timer appears. It begins to count down from 1 million. Scene the third. We are in a lounge. The valet is sitting at a table, sipping some soup. His posture is very erect. There is a timer above him. It reads 999,999.
You can come out now. It's only me.
The skittering of feet, a squeak. Edmund crawls out from behind a vending machine. He is horribly maimed.
Oh, I was wondering when you'd show your face.
Oh, the guests have arrived already. Oh, I dare say I thought we had longer.
The valet smiles humorlessly.
They always dare to say that. You do too. What is time but more time? Less time? Really? It's all the same.
Edmund leaps onto the table. The valet reaches into his pocket and pulls out some cheese.
Oh, a feast for men? Oh, I can't bear the thought of an eternity of suffering.
Your anxiety will dissipate. It always does. There's work to do.
I can't remember the last time we did this.
I can. I remember all of it. It's the blink of an eye.
The valet's eyes don't blink. They never do. Edmund takes some cheese out of a tiny satchel. He begins to nibble. The valet's soup has grown cold.
I enjoy beginning more than the end. There's so much energy, anxiety, hope, fear. By the end, there's only exhaustion, suffering, death.
The valet looks up, looks at us, maybe at you.
Oh, well, that's where you come in. Really, you see, Edmund and I will be so caught up in our parts, our roles, we won't have so much time to muse and ruminate. That will be your work. I'm afraid that the people aren't very hardy at this time. They'll grow hardier. They always do. But first, there will be a price to pay. There always is.
The screen appears on the wall. There's always a price to pay. These words are replaced with an enzyme. It's smiling. A baby kitten walks by this smiling enzyme. The enzyme takes a syringe out of a tiny satchel. It injects the kitten in the eyeball. X's appear over the kitten's eyes. The kitten goes belly up. The enzyme takes a cigarette out of its tiny satchel, takes out a lighter too, lights up, inhales deeply, smiles again, gives us a thumbs up, frowns, gives us a thumbs down, laughs, looks at the valet, nods.
Oh, there's always a price to pay, Edmund.
The timer now reads 999,998. Scene the fourth. We are in a government-style room. How do we know this? Because there are American flags everywhere and brown wallpaper, and a small camera above a very large and flat television screen. Seated around the table are men in military uniforms. They mumble together. We'll collectively call them the council. For the purposes of the following, they will speak as one. A secretary-type mousy man enters. His name, Scott.
Hello, gentlemen. Our visitor is here for the presentation. Are you ready for him? Send in the visitor, Scott. Yes, sirs.
Scott leaves the room quickly and re-enters with Professor Litcholds. Professor Litcholds is in a doctor's coat with a doctor's bag and a doctor's stethoscope around his neck. He is a professor of philosophy.
Gentlemen of the council, I present to you Dr. Beverly Litcholds, Ph.D.
Scott basically sprints out of the room. There are a few locks from the outside. Silence. Dr. Litcholds stares at the council. The council stares at Dr. Litcholds.
Have a seat, Doctor.
Please, please, call me Doctor.
As you know, Doctor, we are in the midst of a pandemic. It'll get much worse before it even thinks about getting better.
So it's like my ex-wife, then? Except for the getting better part.
No one laughs, not even Dr. Litcholds.
Given that you're a medical professional and we need your help coming up with a vaccine, a very strong vaccine that can flatten the curve, if you will, we encourage you to hashtag that.
If there is one thing Nietzsche and Proust have taught me, it's the effectiveness hashtagging has against pandemics and infectious diseases.
Our research has shown much of the same. Of course, we are not trained medical professionals such as yourself.
Tell my ex-wife that.
Again, no laughter from anyone.
Your levity is very much appreciated in these dark times, but if we can have a moment of critical thinking.
I thought you'd never ask.
People are dying, Doctor. We're no closer to beating this thing than we were at the beginning of the Ebola crisis, or swine flu, or even that halftime show with the two Latina women. What's more, this COVID-19 seems to have taken a mind of its own. It wants blood and carnage. It thrives off it. Remember China?
I do.
You know what happened to China, Doctor?
I do not.
COVID. And Italy, Doctor? What do you think happened there?
COVID?
COVID. We will not let the finest democracy in the world succumb to this bastard COVID. It wants America, but it will not succeed. That's where you come in.
I must find a vaccine. But how?
Before the council has a chance to answer, a message on the screen appears. The President of the United States will be on in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, gentlemen. No ladies. Good. Probably for the better. The best, actually. Though we've got some smart ones. A few. Yes, I am the best. My staff, not quite, but the best, but pretty good. Almost good. I knew about this virus a long time ago, much longer than my staff did. Their response has been worse than mine, but still pretty good. I think we have a long way to go with them, but me? No, I'm healthy, very healthy. The tests are negative. The brain tests were all positive. In the big numbers, I think. You could ask Jerry. Jerry will tell you he never saw numbers so high. But these coronavirus numbers, they're low, very low. 600 cases of death here, which is just about the lowest they can be. A little less than 600, but I'd say it's exactly 600. Italy is in bad shape, folks. China too, but I'm in terrific shape. The best. My brain numbers are high, which are really the only numbers you want to be high right now, folks. The Dow could be higher. I think it will be by tomorrow, maybe the next day at the latest, but for sure tomorrow they'll be high. People will be going back to work very soon in the big numbers. My numbers are high, but not my coronavirus numbers. It isn't mine, folks. I think those Chinese folks sent them our way. That might not be right to say, but I'll say it because that's where it started, and it isn't my fault. Their numbers are really bad. So I'll let you take it from here, and I think we're going to see some really beautiful things in the next few days.
The President of the United States disappears from the screen. In its place is an enzyme. The enzyme is squirming and wiggling. It holds up a clock, and the clock says 888,888 and counting down. The council stares at the screen. Professor Litchfield has put his stethoscope up to the glass of water in front of him. Scene the 5th. We are in a bathroom. Baron is standing at a sink. His pants are unbuttoned. He's washing his fat hands, singing.
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. Oh, my, what a wonderful Baron.
Baron continues to sing, but the lights begin to flicker. Heaviness comes over the room. Baron doesn't notice because he's rich and not used to noticing things. An enzyme crawls out of one of the toilets. It looks around the bathroom, spots Baron. The enzyme smiles bigly. It reaches into a tiny satchel and pulls out a bib. It puts the bib on, takes a fork and knife from its satchel. It slowly crawls towards Baron. Baron is still washing his fat hands, still singing.
In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the Baron sleeps tonight.
The enzyme reaches Baron's legs, crawls up ever so slowly. The enzyme takes some soy sauce out of its tiny satchel, sprinkles some on the Baron's neck, liberally. Baron is still washing his fat hands, still singing.
I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Hold on, Baron. I can feel it.
The enzyme drives a tiny fork and knife into Baron's left eyeball. Symptoms appear. Was it instantaneously or in 5 to 14 days? Or maybe the blink of an eye? What use is it? Baron's eyes turn into X's. He keels over, belly up. His face becomes a screen. There's always a price to pay. And then this, 888,887. The enzyme, well, it gives us a big old wink.
Scene the 6th. Back in the hospital waiting room, Charlotte continues to stand. She has one of those long, stretching claws meant for grabbing things high above a human's reach. She stands 6 feet away from a magazine and uses the claw to turn the page. She turns 1 page. She turns 2 pages. She goes for a 3rd, but the claw rips the page and the whole magazine falls to the ground. She grows frustrated and throws it to the other side of the room.
Oh, where is that nincompoop husband of mine? I'll only be a minute, Pickletooth. Baron has to relieve himself. Oh, fie on that, moron.
As Charlotte begins pacing the waiting room, a doctor comes out of the men's room. The doctor is named Dr. Illyri, and she stands tall and wide. She is a beast of a woman with the words, "The doctor is always in," tattooed across her neck. Her skin is hard and cracked. Is she 50? Is she 150? Her hair shoots out in every direction with a fiery blonde sheen. Her nose is wide, and perched at the end of it are her cheaters, kept sturdy by the long chain attached to the back of her skull. She cracks her knuckles and speaks in a deep monotone.
Are you Charlotte?
Yes. And are you some sort of doctor?
I am Dr. Illyri.
Why on earth were you in the men's room?
I had to urinate.
Urinate? What? But you're a woman.
Gender is an illusion, my dear. The sooner we can remove ourselves from how we think we should conform, the sooner we can all make sweet, passionate love.
Dr. Illyri is closing in on Charlotte.
Humanity has a gender crisis since the days of Cicero. Why can't a woman stand at a urinal? Why can't a man take a load off on the toilet while he lets a load go? Why can't a young boy braid his hair? Why can't a young girl rob a liquor store? These are silly social standards that must be done away with. Life is sex. Gender is nothing.
Charlotte continues to back away as Dr. Illyri inches closer. Her eyes are almost lighting up the closer she gets to Charlotte.
Don't come any closer to me. I think I'm infected.
Little boys and little girls who stayed glued to society's image of how they should look and sound and behave grow up to run for political office. Do you want that? Does anyone want that? I say phooey. I say that when the baloney hits the mustard cup, we shall all burn, unless we embrace each other in a sexual manner and explode the idea of general once and for all.
What are you talking about? I need to get out of here. I need attention.
For once, we all make love with each other when we needn't worry about whose hand is whose leg is whose, dare I say, sexual fluids are whose. Do you understand, Charlotte?
Ma'am, please, I don't feel well. I need a doctor. I need a real doctor. I need a man to tell me if I'm sick or not.
Man! Oh, my child, you are blind!
The lights in the hospital waiting room begin to flicker. Did Dr. Illyri's hair just grow 4 inches? Is she gliding instead of walking? Charlotte trips over a chair and hits the ground hard. Dr. Illyri is essentially floating above her now.
Men are what got us into this mess in the first place. They have no business running a country. Never mind a sham university. A pandemic? We're all doomed, dearie.
Dr. Illyri's laugh echoes through the hospital, and the lights explode out of their sockets. Charlotte is whimpering into her mink coat. Dr. O'Leary returns to the ground in the dark of the waiting room.
Please, I need a medical professional. I need my husband.
Your husband cannot help you, darling.
Where is he?
I'm afraid he has succumbed.
To the virus?
Oh, goodness, no. He was murdered. Stabbed in the eyeball, he was. Looks like a classic homicide. I'll write you a prescription if that would make you feel better.
Okay, thank you, doctor.
Of course, honeysuckle. It's what I'm here for. And please, call me doctor.
Dr. O'Leary scribbles down a prescription on her notepad. At the top reads, "Explode the gender." Below it reads, 16 billion milligrams of Oxycontin per 12 hours. When Charlotte looks up, Dr. O'Leary has disappeared. Charlotte dons her mink and hightails out of the waiting room. The screen above the front desk flickers into being. A small enzyme rides a motorcycle onto the screen. It gives a smile, a wink, a frown, another wink, and spits out some chew. It revs once, it revs thrice. It barrels off screen and the smoke forms the numbers 777,771.
Scene the 7th. We are in a government-style office. How do we know this? Because there are American flags everywhere and brown wallpaper and fluorescent lights. And a portrait of William Howard Taft hanging on the wall. Scott is talking with Dr. Litchels.
Damn it, Beverly! They want more!
Don't worry, Scott. They'll get more. And please, call me Beverly.
There's no time for decorum! The clock is ticking!
A clock appears on Taft's forehead. It reads 777,770.
My ex-wife's biological clock was ticking too.
Scott stares blankly at Dr. Litchels. Dr. Litchels stares blankly at Scott. Taft is looking directly at you and me. Is he smiling, frowning, grunting? It's impossible to say.
Scott, did I ever tell you about my earlier years in Venice?
Please, Beverly! There's no time for this!
Oh, that's one of your many problems, Scott. Your limited conception of time. Anyway, there was this gondola driver. His name was Petrie.
I implore you, Beverly!
No, Petrie was a man of some heft. A robust man. He had a way with an oar, Scott. And eyes as blue as sapphires. Why, I once taped a sapphire onto his forehead and swore that I was looking at a cyclops.
Dr. Litchels doubles over with laughter. Scott does not.
Anyway, one morning during my daily commute to the University of Venice, I noticed that Petrie's eyes were burning a little less brightly, a little more dully. I said, Petrie, my boy, what's wrong? And Petrie only looked at me. He reached into his tiny satchel and removed a dish. He held that dish up to me. It was Petrie's dish. You see, Scott, he was infected. Petrie's dish.
Beverly, I beg you to...
Don't you see, Scott? That's the dish we'll need if we're ever going to save this nation. For in that dish there is no rich nor poor, no 1% nor 99%, no general nor soldier, no president, no citizen. There is only enzymes, Scott. And enzymes are where we'll need to go looking.
Beverly, the council!
Dr. Litchfield reacts like a coiled snake. His finger falls upon Scott's lips. He stares deeply into Scott's eyes.
Be silent, Scott. Be silent as my ex-wife never was.
No laughter. None.
The time has come for the United States to embrace science, Scott. And embrace it we shall.
Dr. Litchfield smothers Scott in an embrace. The screen on Taft's forehead now reads 777,669. Taft winks at us. He reaches into a tiny satchel, removes a raw chicken breast. He eats it in one gulp. The number now reads 777,668. Taft smiles generously. Scene the 8th. Clearwater Beach, Florida. Infection abounds. No, not COVID-19, you ninny. Infection has lived in Florida long before the virus and will exist through many viruses to come. Florida is the hothouse of infection, disease, infestation, and stagnation. No one is quite so aware as these two lovebirds plop down in the sand. Clem and Dinah sit large in the white-hot sand, staring out at the ocean. Clem is a man of heft with a long grain beard that is mingled with the puffy chest hair on his sagging torso to form one giant forest. His stomach bloats up to the sky upon which he has perched a Miller Lite. Dinah rivals Clam in size and girth. She is a hardened woman if she is anything. 2 cigarettes extend from her agape mouth. A relish stain, you bet, friend. Her hair hides behind a green visor, and in her right hand is a White Claw vodka, her favorite. A small radio sits between them.
And that is why the CDC is urging all citizens to stay indoors, practice social distancing, and please, self-quarantine if you can.
Dinah lifts up the radio and gives it a hefty chuck into the ocean.
I ain't know nothing about that darn self-Clementine. Do you, Clem?
It's quarantine, you bat.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's darn well it came from a bat. Some darn woman in China or wherever ate a bat, and now people be crapping themselves over nothing.
That ain't it, Dinah.
No? Well, done tell me where it came from then, Clem. You been watching that darn Rachel Maddow again, Clem?
I ain't been watching no Maddow. I ain't been watching no MSNBC either. It just ain't come from no bat, you hear?
I ain't know who you is no more. You passed me one of my Marlboro, Clem.
Clem heaves his rotund body into a satchel and retrieves a pack of Marlboros. He shakes it. No sound. He heaves his rotund body back towards Dinah.
Bad news, dear. Ain't no smokes left.
Silence.
Some bitch.
A small boy is playing with his cell phone. He's making a TikTok. He stops in front of Clem and Dinah. He starts dancing to Juice by Lizzo. He speaks with a thick lisp.
Ayo! You, boy! You wanna make a nickel?
Oh, Lord, do I ever? But Mama said I can't go near strangers, especially now with the virus.
Ain't no darn virus, boy. You been watching too much Cuomo.
What's a Cuomo?
Ain't no matter, boy. Come here and take this here $10 bill and buy me a pack of Marlboro Reds, and I'll give you a nickel when you get back.
Golly, Jim, that sounds awful nice.
The boy inches towards Dinah, but his mom swoops in just in time. You can tell by the way she swooped that she's a liberal. Cheyenne, you get back here. Don't go near that woman.
Mama, she was gonna give me a nickel to buy her smokes.
Ma'am, what is the matter with you? Don't you know we're in the midst of a pandemic?
Ain't nothing doing, lady. You and your boys watching too much Wolf Blitzer.
Mama,
I don't like wolves. It won't be scary.
Smart boy you got there, missus.
You think about what you did, ma'am, putting fear in my boy. This world is messed up. Come on, sweetheart, let's get you inside. The mom and the boy exit down the sandy beach. Clam has started on a new Miller Lite.
Did you have to put a fright in that poor child there, Dinah? Did you? Can't you see he ain't much in the way of brains?
I need my smokes, Clam.
Well, maybe now's a good time for you to quit. What with the virus and such?
Ain't no darn virus.
Dinah tips a bottle of vodka into her White Claw until it spills over. Clam sips his beer. In the distance, we can hear the radio underneath the water.
CDC guidelines recommend working from home, washing your hands and sanitizing the surfaces you come into contact with frequently. All adults should stay away from children.
823,477. Scene the 9th. The hospital room again, but this time the bed isn't empty. Well, therein lies Charlotte. She's unconscious, lots of tubes, lots of machines. The TV is plain, it's muted. Rachel Maddow's mouth is moving, no sound is heard. A pale man enters the room, the valet. A mangled mouse is on his shoulder. Edmund.
Oh, a fine patient, this, but lo, I'd rather be safe in my hole.
Oh, there's no hiding from this. Quarantine is the opium for the masses. Heidegger said that.
Oh, Martin.
No! Kathy!
Silence.
This will be like the last time, Edmund, and the time before that. You'll start to remember. This is part of what we are.
Oh, infection.
Infection.
More silence.
Do you know what Kierkegaard said?
Foreign?
No! Bertha.
Even more silence.
There's no stopping the virus. That's what she said, Edmund. That's what she said.
But what about Dr. Leary?
Oh, yes, the good doctor will play their part, but it won't matter much. It never does.
A thought bubble drifts into the room. It's impossible to say who this thought bubble belongs to, but there's a recognizable image in this bubble. It's Dr. Litchell's. He's holding a stethoscope up to a can of LaCroix. The bubble leaves as strangely as it came.
Oh, now, Edmund, the guests have arrived. It's time for the procedure.
No. Must we?
Oh, we must.
The valet reaches into Edmund's tiny satchel. He removes an enzyme. He places the enzyme on Charlotte's elbow. The enzyme looks around, orientates itself. A spark of recognition comes across its face. It removes a bib from its tiny satchel, some soy sauce too. It sprinkles the soy sauce onto Charlotte liberally. The enzyme drives a tiny fork and knife into Charlotte's left eyeball. Symptoms appear. The blink of an eye. Speaking of eyes, Charlotte's eyes turn into X's. The enzyme is satisfied. It climbs back into the valet's tiny satchel.
Okay, Edmund, you know what to do next.
Oh, I do.
Edmund climbs onto Charlotte. In one swallow, like a snake, Edmund engulfs Charlotte. The valet turns to us, nods with approval. The valet's tongue darts out of his mouth, turns the volume up. Rachel Maddow is talking. There's always a price to pay, she says. Her face becomes a screen. It reads 777,667. Scene the 10th. We are in an operating theater. Dr. O'Leary stands above an infected patient. She is dressed in all black, wearing a face mask that says, "House calls are my specialty." There is a whirl and buzz of machines surrounding the perimeter of the operating theater. Gigantic fluorescent lights bathe the room in a harsh glow. Dr. O'Leary plunges a butcher knife into the patient.
It would appear the patient is not reacting well to the vaccine. Take note of that.
There is no one else in the room.
Vitals are good. Blood pressure is good. No sign of infection spreading, but no sign of it diminishing either. Take note, please.
Again, no one.
Oh, a doctor must be prepared for the worst. I am such a doctor, and I will fight tooth and nail until this thing is under control. COVID? Please. It is nothing compared to the great battle ahead of us to dismantle the patriarchy and explode gender expectations once and for all.
A knock at the door. 1 knock. 2 knocks. 3 knocks, 3. 4 knocks, 5 knocks. Beverly. Dr. Beverly Litchfield enters into the operating theater. Dr. O'Leary does not turn around.
Hello, doctor.
Please. Call me, doctor.
As you wish, doctor. Please have a seat.
No, I think I'll stand, but thank you anyway, doctor.
Please, call me doctor.
As you wish, Ignatia.
Dr. O'Leary gives a humorless laugh.
You always were a slippery one. Ever since childhood.
What do you know about my childhood?
Everything, dearie. You were a sad and lonely boy, glued to your G.I. Joe figures as if you had any idea what it takes to be a real man.
And just what would that be?
If you have to ask, you don't deserve to know.
Dr. O'Leary turns to face Dr. Litchfield. The air is thick with gender and doctors.
By the way, a real man is really a woman.
I see your research has failed you, Ignatia.
Quite the contrary, Beverly. It has only enhanced my understanding of our crumbling society. Look at COVID. Look at this patient. Look at my breasts.
Dr. O'Leary removes her doctor's coat to reveal her breasts. They shine. Dr. Litchfield looks away.
You needn't prove anything to me.
Look at my breast, Beverly.
Dr. Litchfield gives. He looks. He takes a sudden gasp. Dr. O'Leary buttons her coat again, and the light disappears.
Impressive. But you know I'm here on a more pressing matter.
And what would that be, doctor?
This COVID-19 is spreading fast, much like my ex-wife had an all-you-can-eat buffet.
The patient laughs. Neither of them notice.
We must act quickly and swiftly. There is a dish in a canal in Italy. You could call it a Petrie's dish. It holds the vaccine. The only hope if we're to beat this thing.
Why should I help a man such as yourself? You're nothing but a thorn in my breast.
Oh, do it for science, Ignatia. Do it for humanity. Time is running thin.
Dr. O'Leary turns around and plunges the knitting needle into the patient. The patient lets out another giggle.
I swore I'd never work with another man again. But if COVID removes all men and women from the planet, then there is no hope of exploding the gender norms. A tough position. But then again, when hasn't a man put me in a tough position?
Science, Ignatia. It's our lost vestibule of hope.
I'll come. But don't even think about giving me a kiss.
I can safely say that prognosis is grim.
Take note.
The two of them exit the operating theater. The patient gurgles and jiggles, writhes and wriggles. It sits up straight. On one of its vitals, machines reads the number 698,700. It ticks down to 698,699 and then flatlines. The patient looks at the machine, looks back at us, giggles, winks, then gently lies down. Lights out. Scene the 11th. We are in a government-style office, more American flags, more brown wallpaper, more fluorescent lights. The picture of William Howard Taft, if it were possible, has grown larger. The room is empty save for one living being. There sits an enzyme. COVID-19 is sipping a cup of tea. COVID-19 notices us, addresses us.
Don't be a slave to manners. Not now. The time for tact has passed. Come out into the light. Let us see your face.
We come out into the light. We let COVID-19 see our face.
Just as I suspected. Traces of innocence, yes, but guilt too. There's reasons you should live, but there's reasons you should die.
COVID-19 rises, paces the room slowly, comes to a stop near the portrait of William Howard Taft, takes a long sip of tea, turns to us.
I don't enjoy this work, but I don't dislike it either. It's simply what I do, much like what you do is what you do. And what you do is this.
COVID-19 refers to the portrait of Taft with some measure of disdain.
You can't be proud of this, can you? No matter. This is what is available to us. A fallen creation, a corrupted creation. We dance together, and the dance rarely turns out well, depending on who you ask.
COVID-19 reaches into its tiny satchel, removes a pocket watch, opens the pocket watch to reveal a picture of another enzyme.
My mother, COVID-13. She was harmless, so novel, so beautiful. Look at her, just a child.
COVID-19 holds the picture out towards us. We see an enzyme with no discernible features.
She was hiding in an attic when the soldiers came, had been hiding for a while. No matter. Her time came. She was taken. Do you know what she wrote in her journal? I keep my ideals, she wrote, because in spite of everything, I still believe that enzymes are really good at heart. Poetry. I'm not sure that I agree, but I'm not sure that I disagree. I haven't taken a position. Not yet.
COVID-19 looks down, thinks for a moment, looks up at us.
It's impossible to say how this will end. It really isn't about me. It's about you. You must know that by now, after all this time. If you don't, well, no matter. I do what I do. You can go. I've got nothing more to say to you.
COVID-19 grows silent, stares at the picture of Taft. Taft reaches into a tiny satchel. He removes a side of beef. The side of beef has two things written on it. The first, Dow Jones. The second, 691,246. Taft pauses for a moment, then he smiles a great smile. He devours the side of beef in 2 bites. He removes an American flag from his satchel, dabs his greasy mouth, turns to us, stops smiling. His eyes, they grow red. Then, darkness.
Scene the 12th. Mosquitoes infest the air. Bath salts infest the streets. Palm trees, diabetes socks, trampled Mickey Mouse ears. A sign for a conservative incumbent for President of the United States. It's Florida, folks. Plain and simple. Speaking of plain and simple, who is that walking down the sidewalk? Darn tootin'! It's Clam and Dinah. Oh, it would appear they're leaving the beach in which they were so tenderly perched. The Clam is shuffling his large feet with the cooler in tow. Dinah is still sipping her vodka White Claw. They are sunburnt to the dickens, wouldn't you know?
Darn commie governor done close them beaches, making an old woman like myself having to walk all the way home.
He ain't no commie, darling. He's a Republican, just the way you like him. And it ain't too far to walk. Hell, it may not be a bad thing for us to get some exercise. What with these shelter-in-place orders and the who's he, what's it?
Clam, that darn sun done mess with your head. You've been talking too sweet about these idiots. You've been listening to all them podcasts. They fill in your head with fake news.
Ain't no fake news, sweetheart.
That's what they say when it done suits them.
And you think the same can't be said of the other side when it suits them? It's all a show for people like us.
What are you talking, you people? We is the silent majority, Clam.
Well, I don't know about that, darling.
I don't think you know nothing about nothing. Your head's like a bowl of jelly. Gotta give it a good shake to get it moving. But once it starts, it ain't ever gonna stop.
As Clam and Dinah are about to cross a suburban street, a cop car pulls up with its lights flashing. A police officer steps out. He is tall and imposing. He sports a hefty mustache and a sexy pair of aviators to boot. It's highly likely he was born a damn cop. He's the coppiest cop you ever did see. He struts on over to Clam and Dinah.
Evening, officer.
Fine day, ain't it?
The officer tips down his aviators, revealing 2 electric blue eyes. He takes a large and imposing inhale of air. He speaks.
Folks, are you aware of the governor's orders to clear all beaches?
Sure is, officer. We just came from that way. We heading home to watch a little NCIS.
Another pregnant silence as Officer Jeremetrius Stanley takes a humongous inhale.
Is something the matter, sir?
Well, folks, I don't know how it could be more obvious to you that you're standing in the middle of a beach and I received clear orders to remove all living material from said beaches in order to keep the public safe from COVID-19. In case you haven't heard, we're in the middle of a pandemic! Now, call me an ex-big city officer of the law, but when I see an infraction, I view it as my duty to remove the perpetrators in whatever way I see fit.
Officer, I'm sure we meant no harm here. We done left the beach when we was told to leave, and as far as I can tell, we is in the middle of a street. Sir, the beach is done far over yonder.
Officer Stanley bends down to the street and picks up a grain of sand.
What would you call this?
Speck of sand.
Sand. Correct.
Officer Stanley points up to the sky. A seagull soars overhead.
And what just would you call that?
That's a gull, sir.
Seagull. Correct. Again.
Officer Stanley takes a gigantic inhale through his nose.
And just what would you say that sentence?
Clam sniffs the air.
Asphalt.
That's the goddamn ocean. Now I suggest y'all drop your things and put your hands out. Y'all are gonna come down to the station and answer a few questions.
Now you done listen here, officer. You might be from one of them highfalutin liberal cities like New York or Chicago or Tampa, but down here, folks is a little more understanding and neighborly. We ain't living in no high rises or riding in different Ubers everywhere. We's on our way home now.
Officer Stanley hauls off and smacks Dinah across her face. She staggers back a step or two. She finishes her vodka White Claw, drops it to the ground, and then gives Officer Stanley a fist straight to the face. Blood explodes out of his nose, and he tumbles over the hood of his cop car onto the other side.
Oh, Dinah! Oh, you should have done that! I thought your fighting days was over!
Well, you sure as hell ain't gonna do nothing. I don't care who he is or who he ain't. He ain't got no right to hit a woman.
Officer Jeremetrius Stanley rises as if held by strings from the other side of his cop car. He's holding a taser. He shoots Dinah and Clam. Clam goes down like a ton of bricks, but Dinah stands straight up.
Gonna take a little more than that, officer.
Officer Stanley barrel rolls over the hood of the cop car and takes out his nightstick. He smacks Dinah across the face with it, but she turns back, grabs the nightstick, and shoves it right into Officer Stanley's torso. Blood shoots out of his mouth. She gives him a second hit under his chin, and he falls back into the door of his cop car, sending glass raining onto the ground. Clam is still writhing and seizing in the street. Dinah body checks Officer Stanley against his cop car.
You stay away from me and my hubby, you hear? We is fine Florida folk. We's obeying your darn commie orders. Hit a woman, I'll make you sorry you ever came down this street looking for trouble.
Officer Stanley takes a sedative out of his pocket and stabs Dinah in the neck. She gives him a look of hell on earth. Just as she's about to snap his neck, she falls to the ground. Officer Stanley is breathing heavily. He removes the radio from his car.
This is Officer Jeremetrius Stanley requesting backup on the corner of Corona and 19th. Bring the horse carriage.
Officer Stanley spits out blood. The lights on his cop car flash red, flash blue, flash 600,000. Flash red, flash blue, flash 599,999.